Coming up on Tech News today, Lulzsec goes after the Arizona Department of Public Safety, but has the jester revealed their true identities? Plus, Apple says iWeb's out. Deal with it. Did Sony's negligence help cause the PS3 attacks? And microtransactions are coming to Xbox. All that and more next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, June 24th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by FreshBooks, the easy online invoicing service that gets you paid quickly and makes you look professional. Get started with a free package at freshbooks.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show where we kick around the tech news of the day, kind of like kick the can, but with tech news.
And with wine today.
And with wine today. It's Liquid Friday. Tom Merritt is busy crossing the border between U.S. and Canada. We wish him well. Hope he gets back safely.
Hope
He's on a
to
dangerous
see him
mission.
again someday.
The demilitarized zone between the two. So it's a dangerous mission.
Like
but
the entire
he's at Podcasters Across Borders, so we like to make fun of Tom. Tom is doing this thing where he's gone on Fridays as of late.
Yeah.
This has been his test.
Yeah.
Well, he hasn't been drinking,
together?
Lately. So maybe this is his clever way of getting out of the pressures, the peer pressure of Liquid Friday.
That's what most people do. They go to Canada.
Yeah.
There's peer pressure about drinking.
Right. So, Tom, get back safely. He'll be back on Monday. But meanwhile, we have Wil Harris from channelflip.com joining us today on Liquid Friday. Hello, Will.
I've succumbed to the peer pressure, Sarah.
Well,
I'm weak.
I'm glad.
I can't help it.
It's
I'm
also
sorry.
like, what, 11:30 at
Weak
night
guests are our favorite. You will just agree with us on everything we say.
Absolutely. So I've got a Belgian cherry beer, and it is beautiful.
It looks beautiful. It looks like a nice old-fashioned
Did you remove
bottle.
the label?
A Belgian.
No, it just kind of came like that.
It was like a special home brew. I was just
Get it
wondering.
out of Speakeasy. This is getting weird.
Yeah, maybe.
Little magical lady under the bridge.
So Iyaz and I, we crossed our fingers all week. We thought maybe this Liquid Friday we won't lead off with a bunch of Lulzsec news, which we did last Friday, and I think even the Friday before. Not the case. Lulzsec did not want us to get through a show without them, and they decided to dump a bunch of news into our lap. The first, we'll get through as much as we can. The first is that Lulzsec has released over 400 megabytes of data from the Arizona Department of Public Safety, and this is mostly text, so there's a lot of data here.
We have email archives, images, other files like PDFs, XLS, Excel files, those kinds of things. And Lulzsec has verified, yeah, they did it, and their motivation is that they are targeting these guys specifically because we're against SB 1070 and the racial profiling anti-immigrant police state. Now, SB 1070 is this thing where pretty much we're in Arizona. If somebody is suspected to be an illegal alien, they have to show papers to say that they belong there. So it kind of smacks of racial profiling, show me your papers kind of thing. So this is...
It's a controversial...
Yeah. The question is how Lulzy is this kind of attack to take all these over 400 megabytes of data and just post it online.
Well, spokesman from the Arizona Department of Public Safety, Steve Harrison, has also confirmed these documents leaked by Lulzsec are real. Some of it is fairly mundane. I mean, it's all pretty much out there that you can read for yourself. Some of it is actually, I mean, you could consider it a little lulzy. Some of the computers, for example, at the Department of Public Safety are on dial-up, and people are complaining that it takes 20 hours to download, 10 or 50 megabyte files, for example. So that's the sort of thing where you think, well, Lulzsec is clearly ahead of certain law enforcement departments in many regards. There's another correspondence where they're talking about how USB drives can be hidden inside shoes and pens and all sorts of stuff. Look out, people. There could be USB drives being shared all around. But then there are also families, security information that is part of this leak as well, and that's where it gets into the not very funny innocent people perhaps being compromised, or people who are working undercover. This all gets pretty scary, certainly for for Arizona law enforcement.
Right, Jimmy Chavez, the president of the Arizona Highway Patrol Association, on their website wrote, Lulzsec maliciously released confidential information knowing the safety of DPS employees and their families would be compromised. So these guys obviously want Lulzsec to be taken down for this. But what do you think, Will? Do you think this is Lulzy? Do you think this is within the realm of Lulzsec, or is this more anonymous feel? What do you think?
Well, you have to admire the irony. They're targeting these Arizona guys because of the whole thing about show us your papers, and the message seems to sort of be like, show us our papers, you show us your papers first. It's quite. I think that's quite good. It's interesting to see that this level of it's sort of truly hacktivism, isn't it? It's about taking what you believe in and going out and doing something about it. The issue here is that it's massively, massively illegal, and so it has to say it's a little bit of a worry. This seems to be a growing trend of trying to make a political point or a social point by going and releasing data or hacking things or getting into people's personal information. And it feels like at the moment between Lulzsec and Anonymous and then people trying to out each other on Twitter and all these IRC chat logs, feels a little bit like kind of playground games and people are just escalating, and sooner or later someone's going to lose an eye.
Speaking of chat logs, people are, one of the things about Lulzsec and, of course, Anonymous is that no one really knows who this organization is. How many of them are there? Where do they all live? Well, one hacker who goes by the Jester, who calls himself a hacktivist for good, obstructing the lines of communication for terrorists, sympathizers, fixers, facilitators, and other general bad guys, says, I know who Lulzsec's leader is. And it's someone named Xavier Cautico, and he goes by Sabu, and he's 30 years old, and he either currently or has recently lived in New York City. Lulzsec also had some chat room logs that were leaked out, and we can't figure out, at least at the time of recording, who actually leaked these logs, but they're up there for everyone to see. They look a lot like any chat room.
Yeah, I mean, there's some silly comments about Silverlight, like who on earth uses Silverlight, Microsoft's technology for web video. But some information out of the IRC conversations that were published on The Guardian, that Sabu is the leader, and there's 6 to 8 people in the group. And somebody named Caleb provides a botnet for DDoS attacks. And there's one fellow who's in charge by the name of Topiary who takes care of the public image. So he's in charge of Twitter. And apparently they're obsessed with media coverage, especially in newspapers. Apparently they get a real kick out of that. So
not a huge surprise.
Maybe we're feeding their ego way too much. I mean, the thing is, I looked at their IRC chat, and I tried to find tech news today, and they didn't mention us.
Yeah, they didn't mention us, but maybe they're just watching silently.
I think that's a good thing.
Not a big surprise that Lulzsec is following mentions of themselves in the media. I don't think anyone is too surprised by that. Lulzsec also says, listen, this Jester character is not a threat, doesn't know what he's talking about, he or she. I guess it's a he. And, they posted something, a long post on Pastebin, pretty much saying, doesn't know what he's doing, bad hacking skills, we're better than you.
We've only been at this for 2 months, look how good we got, is what they're basically saying. When
they had called him out on working on something for 18 months and having no success, and look at all that they've achieved in the last 2 months with Arizona law enforcement being the latest target. The mudslinging is really hard to ignore, who's right, who's wrong, and I'm starting to get to the point now where I read all this stuff and it's like, I don't even know that the Jester doesn't work with Lulzsec and they're just trying to drum up some sort of a non-story. I just don't know.
Doesn't it sound something out of Batman? Like you've got the Jester and Topiary, and it's like they're all doing crazy things. I'm not quite sure. You showed that Guardian article. Not quite sure they've illustrated the leak of the IRC logs from Lulzsec with a picture of Nyan Cat. Like, I can only imagine the sort of the juxtaposition of the two is kind of horrifying.
Well, the crazy thing is, I think one of the things that Lulzsec was really happy about is that I think it was like one of these really esteemed newspapers, one of the Times papers, actually had to run that picture, that Pop-Tart cat thing, the Nyan Cat. So just to see it on a newspaper because there's a hack, they got a kick out of that. And okay, that's kind of funny, I'll admit that. But if you read the logs, I mean, they seem just pretty angry at each other at times. I mean, there is a defined leader. So, like one of the people in Lulzsec wanted to put up on Reddit an IMA. So pretty much you can ask this person anything.
That's like a Q&A type of a thing.
Exactly.
Or like a FAQ.
And Sabu got really mad about that.
So Sabu, again, the supposed ringleader, and yes, has comes across as almost like a parental figure, telling other people what to do, reprimanding people when they're talking to others who may not be trustworthy, or if they're going onto Reddit and providing information that then could be used against them, type of a thing. It's all very fascinating how much of it is leaked on purpose versus stuff that Lulzsec really doesn't want anyone to know. It's very hard to sit back and know at this point because they pride themselves on manipulation, right?
Right. And somebody in the chat room was saying, let's stop talking about internet trolls, and I agree. Let's move to Google, shall we?
Okay.
Yesterday we were talking about the FTC potentially subpoenaing some people at Google, and Google's confirmed it via a blog post saying it is indeed being investigated by the FTC. But in their post they say, it's still unclear exactly what the FTC's concerns are, but we're clear about where we stand. And the reports are saying right now that Google is subject of antitrust investigation related to the whole advertising. But Google kept making a point of this. And 6 times in their blog post, they kept talking about choice. Using Google is a choice. And there are lots of other choices available to you for getting information.
Yeah, and choice is such a key word for Google. I mean, they've said, listen, we're being investigated. We just don't really know what their problem is because we give people choices, and our whole point, the whole point of this side of our business, or our business in general, is to give people what they want when they search for something. So Iyaz searches for something to do with movies, and we just want him to get the best result possible, the most relevant based on where he lives, what his habits are, and what he's looking for, and that might be a video or an image or a direct link to some service, and we're working for the users, and we give people all sorts of options, if they want to use various search methods, so on and so forth. So Google's kind of saying, we're just doing what we're doing. This is our business, and we're being investigated, and we're not really sure what the deal is.
And we got an email echoing the same kind of point. It was before the blog post actually came out, explaining the difference between Google and Microsoft's issues, because Microsoft got investigated for monopolistic behavior. Just pretty much Google saying that you aren't locked into that platform. I mean, when you get an operating system, that's on your computer. But for Google, you can always just switch away. And that's from Hans. Thanks for that email, by the way. I mean, that's what Google's point is, too. They kept saying it. You can just go direct navigation,
right,
or you could use another. You could always switch your browser. I mean, your search engine. I mean, I used to use Alta Vista all the time, and I switched to Google. It's not like, I'm trapped. I don't know how to change something.
Yeah.
Will, do you think
unless you're using a Chromebook, I guess. You do have choices.
Do people get locked into... Actually, even on a Chromebook, you could change your browser.
Yeah,
you could go to Bing
true.
if you wanted to.
That's true.
Which is... You could.
If you wanted to. So, I think one of the things that the FTC is complaining about, or, is thinking of complaining about, is that, Google is starting to amalgamate more and more things onto the Google homepage. It used to be that when you searched Google, all you got was a list of links to go, off the Google site to somewhere else. And now what they're slowly doing over time is sort of bringing them in. So you get maps come in, so you can see maps directly within Google. You get things like show times and movie times coming up directly within Google. You now start to get, previews of pages and conversions and news and all these sort of things start to appear within Google. So you don't have to go off Google to go and get that information. And I think what people are concerned about is that eventually what Google's going to end up doing is just kind of crawling data from all over the web and just kind of pulling it in, to sort of search on Google, so you don't ever have to go anywhere else.
That was a lot of news outlets' concerns with Google News. The idea they would scrape all this data, you'd never have to leave Google News. But the weird thing is they're usually just a bunch of links. I mean, you do have to read the full story. Even fast flip. I mean, you can see the stories quickly. But if anything, would help the traffic for these companies. And the fact that Google could promote its own services on its own website doesn't sound so crazy to me, actually. It's like, yeah, well, they got your market share, so guess what? They will promote their own thing first, because...
Yeah, and I have to say, I don't think it seems, I never quite got the Microsoft thing, and I know Paul Thurrott on Windows Weekly has always said the same thing, which is that, again, you don't have to use Microsoft Windows. You don't even have to buy a PC. You could buy a Mac. Even if you got a PC, you could use any number of other operating systems, or you could very easily use other browsers. There's quite a strong analogy, I think, to be made between Google's got its homepage, and it starts integrating things that, quote, give a better user experience. We're all about the user, and, all these kind of things. And Microsoft integrating things like Internet Explorer and Internet all into the operating system, saying, well, we're just trying to give the user a better user experience and make it simpler and make it more cohesive. I don't see actually that there's a massive difference.
All right, well, we've got a lot of news still to come from some big companies, like Apple, if you've heard of them, Microsoft, Sony. Sony's in the news, Facebook as well.
Small company called Facebook.
Before we do any of that, we want to thank FreshBooks. They're our sponsor today, and they're great. If you're not familiar with FreshBooks, what are you waiting for? It's the way to get paid conveniently. If you're an invoicer, you can use FreshBooks to look professional and to make sure that your clients have easy ways to pay you, because that's what it's all about. Quickly and easily create and send professional-looking invoices with FreshBooks. You can upload your company logo, in fact. So, they have all sorts of perks. Your clients can download a PDF of the invoice. They can sign off on it, pay you a variety of different ways. Online, you can use PayPal, credit card. They can dump money directly into your bank account. You can go through the mail if either you or your client just prefers to do that. There are options for you to do that as well. Late payment reminders are a big perk of FreshBooks as well, because, as we all know, sometimes people conveniently forget to pay you on the day that they're supposed to pay you, and FreshBooks can just set up automated reminders so you don't have to be the person who does that. FreshBooks will just kind of take care of all of that for you. If you use the FreshBooks iPhone app, you can track your time and invoice your customers when you're on the go. A lot of people don't sit at a desk and work in an office all day long, so FreshBooks is very good at working with you depending on the kind of work that you do. Over 2 million users have been sending and paying invoices with FreshBooks since all the way back in 2004, so they've got a great track record and a lot of happy customers. If you try out FreshBooks free today for up to 3 of your clients, it only takes about a minute to set up your account, and you don't have to pay a dime. If you've got 3 clients or less, FreshBooks is your free service, and of course, their pricing options are very reasonable if you're a really good freelancer and you end up having a lot of clients. Also, and by the way, when they ask you how you heard about FreshBooks, let them know that TNT sent you, because that way they know that we're really awesome and we're sending folks their way. And by the way, they also every week, you sign up for an account at FreshBooks, and your name automatically gets entered into a cauldron, and then they pick a name once a week out of the cauldron. It's not really a
smoky cauldron. Yeah, it's like bubbling.
It's dry ice, and it's dangerous.
And they've got warts on their nose, and they kind of laugh like a
right, yeah.
Which is kind of weird.
But if your name gets drawn, it's all good, because you get a free birthday cake sent to you.
It'll be delivered fresh, and the thing is, we had one here. It was delivered in dry ice, so it was kind of smoking and stuff, but it was cold and
It was
nice.
like a witch's brew, but it was a delicious cake.
It was a delicious cake. It was fantastic, and you get entered to win. It's also, they sometimes call it birthday cake because people like eating birthday cake, even if it's not your birthday.
Yeah, if you're saying, well, wait a second, I just had a birthday, so I don't want to sign up for FreshBooks because I'll be disqualified. Don't worry about it. It doesn't have to be your birthday. FreshBooks doesn't even really care. They just want to make it a little bit fun to enter you to get a birthday cake or just a regular unbirthday cake when you sign up for an account with them. So thanks to FreshBooks. Moving on now to some Apple news, and this is actually going to make some Mobile Me people a little sadder than others, depending on how much you depend on the service. I am a Mobile Me customer, so Iyaz, what's going on with all of us who have sat and listened to some of this iCloud news saying, well, how is it going to change iWeb?
Well, Apple
they
actually bothered to put out an FAQ. Could you imagine that they explained the transition between Mobile Me and iCloud? And some of the key points are the @me.com email addresses and @mac.com email addresses can be moved over to iCloud. I don't know what exactly your URL will be. And then Mobile Me Gallery and Mobile Me iDisk, those things, they're dead. iWeb is also gone, so deal with that. And no more syncing of Mac dashboard widgets, keychains, and system preferences like that. So if you were relying on Mobile Me for these kinds of services, forget it.
Now, Will, you were telling us before the show that you know somebody who relies quite heavily on some of these services and is going to have to do some rebuilding from the ground up. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so apart from the fact I use Mobile Me for all my email and such for personal things, my wife is a university lecturer and has done spent hours and hours and hours putting all her course notes and lecture notes up into iWeb. She created them all. She's not majorly techie, but she created them all on her Mac and made them all look beautiful, and illustrated them all and put links into all the relevant places and uploaded them to iWeb. And now they're all going to die. And she's not the sort of person that will go and hand code something to go and put it online somewhere else. And I think, it's a small but significant base of people that are going to be kind of gutted about this. It's all very well saying, well, iWeb wasn't that popular, but that's still, even if it's not that popular for Apple, that's still tens of thousands of people who are going to be really miffed in 6 months' time.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, I just looked up somebody that I met, at a social dinner the other night, and I noticed, this is a website created with iWeb, because sometimes you can just sort of tell, even if they take that made on a Mac thing. And I thought, wow, I haven't seen one of these in a while, but it was her personal homepage, had all of her links, and she's one of those examples of somebody who's going to have to come up with something else.
I mean, this has.
And I think the fact they're killing off the keychain and syncing and things like that is a real pain for people who use multiple Macs. If you've got more than a desktop Mac and a laptop, usually, I certainly rely on mobile me syncing to keep all those preferences and keychains and things in sync. And to kill that off seems like the opposite purpose of iCloud. Like, iCloud is designed to keep all your mobile life in sync, and they're just turning off a whole bunch of services that did just that.
Right.
I mean, that's actually one of the. I'm just thinking about the old Apple patents I've seen in covering Apple for a couple of years, and one of their things they had was this home folder in the cloud concept, which is the thing they're killing now. This whole keychain and your home folder being accessible on any Mac, pretty much the way the Chrome OS would work. You log in, you have that same feel. It wouldn't surprise me to see a service like that keychain thing come back once you could just log into any Mac as your own Mac, because this Back to My Mac and all kinds of cloud, basically this whole iCloud thing is going to go, I think it's going to get much bigger. It's not just going to be this simple thing of, I can get my pictures, I can get this. It's about any computer is your computer. I mean, Google's trying that right now with Chrome, and a lot of people don't understand it. So I'm thinking Apple probably could figure it out and go, yeah, you'll understand this. Every computer is yours.
Also, remember, anybody who's got mobile me galleries, maybe you haven't even logged in a while, get that information somewhere else. Don't let Apple shut it down without, I'm sure they're going to send you all sorts of reminders. They've been pretty good with mobile me so far, but this is your stuff, so make sure that you don't lose anything.
Huge opportunity right now. An importer for iWeb, or an importer for this gallery, or an exporter or something. Somebody out there can make a lot of money based on this.
Yeah, and in fact, if you know of one, let us know, TNT@twit.tv, and we'll try to make a list of some of the best. All right, moving on to Sony, kind of a little bit more bad news for Sony. Class action lawsuit against Sony says, you know what, they laid off security staff right before this big, the April and May months of PS3 hacks, and therefore they were unprepared for these hacks. They did it to themselves.
Yeah, the complaint's got a great quote. Just 2 weeks before the April breach, Sony laid off a substantial percentage of its Sony online entertainment workforce, including a number of employees in the Network Operations Center, which, according to confidential witness number 2, is the group that is responsible for preparing for and responding to security breaches, and who ostensibly has the skills to bring the network security technology up to date, end quote. So pretty much they fired the people that probably could have stopped the hack from starting, but does this mean that these people maybe were disgruntled, who got fired, and maybe knew Sony security? This is just that kind of like, you can't help but notice, okay, security team gets fired, 2 weeks later, huge security breach.
Right.
Could they be related in any which way?
Yeah, there's two ways of looking at it. Either you can say exactly that, in which case there are some fairly disgruntled Sony ex-employees. But I have to say that if you've got security staff who have been there presumably for years managing the Sony network operations, by all accounts the Sony servers were so poorly secured that you have to wonder what they were doing during those years. Maybe they were laid off because they were absolutely useless and kept Sony's information on public servers, right?
Right. Although if you're organizing some sort of a lawsuit against Sony, whether or not anybody who was laid off was ever effective, it definitely helps your case, or it might look good to say, look at what Sony did right before they were hacked. Had these people not been let go, none of this would have happened.
That's because this lawsuit's about the data being stolen. It's not about exactly how this all went down. It's this information being in there and the confidential witnesses. It'd be interesting to see if any of that information becomes public. Who are these people saying these things?
Yeah.
How do they know what they know?
If they aren't former employees, they're certainly people who know the inner workings of Sony, or at least have access to how the HR department has what they've been up to lately. So in any case, very interesting stuff. We'll have to see what Sony has to say about this as the case continues on. Microsoft is bringing free-to-play to the Xbox. They're working on a microtransaction system that allows free-to-play games to the Xbox, according to Develop. Now, they already have a currency system, isn't that right, Iyaz?
Yeah, they have something called Microsoft Points, so you can you can get downloadable content with this stuff, but you couldn't do in-game purchases yet. So this would be a microtransaction system that already exists, like on the PC world and things like Facebook. You can have all these microtransactions, but it doesn't exist on the Xbox yet. So that would mean that you'd be able to get a game and you'd be able to play for free until you wanted to buy or move it along. So this is an interesting move to kind of put things together with Microsoft. If they have it on PC, why not have it on their Xbox?
Yay! I can't wait to have Farmville on my big plasma screen. That's all my Xbox has been missing.
Will, is it safe to say that this isn't news that is particularly exciting you?
It's not driving me wild.
Well, there are other games out there. Valve announced Team Fortress 2 is free to play, monetized only by microtransactions. I think the other day we talked about City of Heroes doing the same thing. A lot of games are doing this move towards this whole microtransaction thing. And the idea that I'm really curious about this. If the games didn't cost you anything, do you think more people would just try it out? I mean, instead of going, well, I could use GameFly and I can get a rental, or I can just borrow a game, or I can buy it directly. But to be able to play games for free on a console and then go, I'll keep playing. I'll keep playing. Do you think this is going to open up doors to more gamers? Yeah,
I do, actually. I think it works in a very similar way that free apps work, where we're saying on iPad today all the time, free app. I mean, if you don't like it, you don't really lose anything except a little bit of time to click around and see if it's your bag. And I think to be able to offer this sort of thing with games is a really great way to get people in the door. If they don't like it, fine. But if they do, and you can start charging little things down the road a bit, then Microsoft is onto something.
It's a shift, and I hate to get like really economically geeky about this now.
Do it.
Come on, who am I kidding?
Get geeky.
It's the shift between putting the burden of financial responsibility for the success of these games from casual players onto hardcore players. If you think about the traditional console gaming model, you pay $50 for a game. And if you only play it, for an hour or 2 hours and you hate it, you still pay $50. But the people who are really getting the value out of that $50 are the people who are playing it for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Whereas in the sort of this new kind of model, it's switched on its head. So the people that are just playing it casually end up paying nothing. The people who are really, really invested in it pay much more money. And it turns out that on the whole, it's more lucrative because if you've got people who are prepared to invest a lot of time in these kind of things, they will pay a lot more than $50 to keep doing it. And so it's kind of it's sort of the Las Vegas theory, where if you can get like 3 or 4 whales into your casino in a weekend, they'll just drop millions of dollars without really caring, and they pay for the accommodation and for subsidize everybody else. And it's the same principle for gaming. It's a pretty radical way of thinking about economics.
The house will win every time.
Yeah. You're going to keep playing
exactly.
and keep playing and keep playing.
We talked about Farmville, and it's easy to chuckle, oh, Farmville, but a lot of people play Farmville, and even more people use the service that people play Farmville on, and that's Facebook, who now has 750 million users, give or take a few.
That's according to TechCrunch's sources, and they didn't name who that was. Facebook has 750 million users, but a user in this definition is a user who's logged in within the last 30 days. This isn't like all accounts. Okay, there could be way more accounts on Facebook, but 750 million active users on a monthly basis. I wonder how much of that's kind of influenced by the whole Facebook Connect. I mean, it's like on every site, so you probably used it whether you thought about it or not. You logged in one way or another.
So that's a good point. I mean, it's easy to kind of go, yeah, Facebook's huge, 750. They were just at 500 million, so of course they're growing, right? But that's a lot of people to have been active on Facebook in the last 30 days. So this is not your mother who maybe signed up for a Facebook account and never went back, but Facebook still counts her as a user because there was a sign up. This is somebody who has been active in the last 30 days. But again, and this was something that came to light when people had a problem deleting their Facebook accounts, they kept not being able to, because if anytime you click a like button or for whatever reason are using Facebook Connect to sign into another service, Facebook considers you active. So that there are a lot of different ways, even if you're never actually participating in Facebook, that you might still be counted as active.
I love that Joseph in the chat room says, "I wish my mother would never go back to Facebook." Can't get her off.
Yeah. I hear that sentiment from a lot of people. Why did my mother join Facebook? My mom's my friend on Facebook. It actually works out well. Also in Facebook news, the Winklevoss twins. We mentioned them the other day that they were going to fade away into obscurity.
Yeah, that was the plan.
That was the hope. Anyway, they decided to not appeal their case to the Supreme Court. That was the latest case where they said we deserve more money because Facebook is worth so much more than it was when we settled with Mark Zuckerberg, and the court said you don't have a leg to stand on. They said, all right, fine, we won't appeal with the Supreme Court. But it turns out that they're actually going after Facebook in a federal court in Boston because Facebook didn't turn over important information during litigation.
And Facebook's attorney said, these are old and baseless allegations that have been considered and rejected previously by the courts. So as much as we're tired of covering it, the attorneys are sick of it.
But what's fascinating is that every time we think the Winkle V have folded, the Winkle V will move on, they're just strategizing. They're like, all right, the Supreme Court is not the way we want to do this. We actually want to go back to that Boston court and say that there was information that was withheld, and we got to, go back to trial.
If they were really any good at this whole social networking thing, and they really say they're the geniuses behind it all, just go out and buy MySpace, okay? It's for sale. Make it awesome, and then move on. Because I'm tired of reporting on these guys.
Winkle Vena's more like.
How much do we think the Winklevoss twins have spent just on legal fees? Had they not done any of this, wouldn't they be ahead?
Probably 30%.
And you know what? They've got 70. What is it? It's like $70 million.
Right.
$70 million for doing like nothing. Honest to God, if someone gave me $17 million for doing nothing, I would not be complaining about it.
But they came up with the idea for Facebook.
Wait, if you got $17 million for doing nothing, imagine how much more you could get for continuing to do nothing.
That's true. Well, they didn't do nothing. They had an idea in college. I mean, they were on a path. They were trying to get something going. So they didn't do nothing. But yeah, it seems a little. What's it all mean at this point? And with that, let's move on to news views. All right, Skype people like you, listen up. They're nearing a release, an official video chat app for the iPad 2, or that's at least what we can assume from a demo video that was posted briefly on Skype's official YouTube channel that was captured by somebody before it was pulled down. So it looks promising, but a disclaimer on the video reads, actual video and audio quality may vary based on the speed and quality of your Wi-Fi or 3G connection. Operator charges may apply, so your move, carrier empire.
Or you could just use FaceTime. Nokia CEO Stephen Elop is ensuring the N9 will be a footnote in Nokia's history by saying, even if the N9 is a success, there won't be more Migo phones in the future. Elop also confirmed his commitment to the Windows Phone 7 platform. So good luck, N9 fans. Enjoy your dead end.
It's a historical relic.
But it's not even out yet.
It's like holding a museum.
It's a future relic.
Relic from the future. Electronic Arts is sending out emails to gamers today, alerting them to the fact that BioWare's servers have been hacked. Users who have registered in the past to play Neverwinter Nights online could have had their personal details exposed to an exploit which saw hackers make off with personal information from about 18,000 people, although EA says that no credit card data was stolen. News of the hack first broke last week on the BioWare social network, but it's only now that EA is starting to get around to notifying users about the full extent of the security breach.
The Noisecast.com says they've gotten hold of an email exchange with an executive of a major record label who claims that Spotify will launch in the U.S. between July 5th and July 15th. We had previously reported an executive at Spotify said sometime after July 5th, so this is a lot more specific. The emails also suggest that Spotify may start as an invite-only service. That's how it started in the UK, so that would be consistent, and seems to confirm that the rumored $10 a month subscription price will still stand.
Nortel's patent portfolio is up for grabs, and Intel has joined the list of combatants. Intel just received FTC approval to acquire Nortel's patents. That means Google, Apple, and now Intel can bid in an auction scheduled for next week.
So, Iyaz, Sarah, the next time you're visiting Las Vegas or any area of Nevada, don't be surprised to see driverless cars on the roads.
What?
The Nevada legislature passed a bill this week that will allow its Department of Transportation to make rules regarding driverless vehicles. Google has already tested safely cars without people behind them in California, so maybe your next cab in Nevada could be powered by Google.
We're going to Vegas!
Vegas,
baby! Hulu might look different today because Reddit got to choose the videos in Hulu's featured section. So, what did Reddit pick as its top vid? Carl Sagan's Cosmos. Hulu also collected the top 10 shows selected by Reddit, which includes Arrested Development and Firefly.
Now, if you're going to sue someone, make sure you do it all over the world. Apple just sued Samsung again, but this time the patent infringement suit is in South Korea. That means Apple and Samsung have lawsuits in South Korea, Japan, Germany, and the United States. Any guesses for the next lawsuit venue? Spain, anyone? Maybe?
Okay, that sounds fine. And now, on to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
Iyaz, you and Jason were in a Final Cut Pro 10 tutorial yesterday.
Alex
later
Lindsay
in the game.
at the Pixel Core set at the new studio actually had kind of a Final Cut 10 or X, however you choose to call it. Although they say it's officially 10. Kind of a walkthrough and a Q&A and all.
And was it magical and revolutionary and wonderful and better?
Well, even
that.
Conan O'Brien actually went ahead and it showed how his team think what they feel about Final Cut Pro 10 on his very popular show on TBS. And we have a video of that.
Yeah, we'll play a couple.
We can show you this.
Hi, I'm Dave Grecu, one of the editors here at Conan. We actually really like the new version of Final Cut Pro. We used it to edit the video you're watching right now.
Hey, this is Dan Doe, one of the editors from Interface for Final Cut X.
Best of iTunes and iMovie all right inside Final Cut X.
That's great.
Hey, my name is Rob Ash. What I really like about the...
So obviously they're, it's pretty obvious. They're riffing on the fact that it's not very easy to edit with this.
Yes, the idea is, of course, if the joke wasn't obvious, that professional editors hate Final Cut Pro 10. If you look at the reviews in the Mac
App Store, it's really harsh.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Over 400 one-star reviews. I think it's like 200 5-star reviews, which were there pretty early. I've seen this thing. We watched it for 2 hours. It's pretty much iMovie Pro. That's what people are calling it. That is not a joke.
It feels much more like an incremental step up from iMovie than it does any sort of an upgrade to Final Cut. It feels like a huge step down from Final Cut. So I don't know.
The App Store reviews are pretty dismal. There have been reports that some of the more scathing reviews have mysteriously disappeared. But to have 400 one-star reviews, I mean, that's the sort of thing that at a snapshot, you'd never download a program with that many bad reviews because you know something is terribly wrong with it. Now, of course, Final Cut Pro 10 works. It's not as if it's not working, but it doesn't work the way that Final Cut Pro 7 has been.
Yeah, as an application.
Used to it.
By working, you mean it doesn't crash, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, usually
working as an editing tool.
Debatable.
When you see usually that many one-star reviews, it's because something's wrong, something's buggy. There's crash issues.
If I labeled Angry Birds Final Cut, 12, that doesn't mean that it's going to be any good for anybody to edit. So that's the thing. Like, apparently, a lot of people are just ticked, including myself and some of the editing people upstairs, that this is not Final Cut. This is just iMovie. Well, what do you think about this whole $300 app that's making everyone angry?
It's a lot cheaper than it was, so that's,
it's a lot cheaper. So, because it's in the App Store, it's $300, and you get 5 licenses, which is an awful lot cheaper than the previous version. However, in the chat room, they're calling it Final Cut Excrement. Which I think probably sums up most of the opinion.
Yeah, well, Final Cut. I don't know. I mean, is Apple going to backpedal on something like this?
I have to imagine at some point they have to address it because they've upset a large amount. I guess in the grand scheme of users of Final Cut and the potential of future users, they're going to gain a lot of lower level, introductory, intermediate editors to come in because of the low price point. But the smaller group of just passionate professional video editors are completely ticked off by this release. I think they have to
and
address
those are
it
the
at some
people
point.
who make the most of all of the features.
They
who are actually using it to its potential.
I mean, if Apple's real goal here is to get more users and make a lot of money off of it by bringing more users into the fold, then do they really care about that small minority that's power user or whatever?
Hopefully, thanks to the App Store, that'll give updates, and maybe by 10.5 it will not suck as much. Onto the calendar?
Yeah, hopefully so.
Yes, onto the calendar.
Doodle-doo.
On this day in 1947, so this is a historical calendar item, Kenneth Arnold, who was a pilot, made the first widely reported UFO sighting in the United States, spawning many other UFO sightings.
And popularized the phrase flying saucer
for years to come. Flying saucer. Thank you, pilot Kenneth Arnold. You have helped create the series X-Files, as well as many
indirectly
nightmares. Yeah, exactly. All right, Jason, this next calendar item, you're going to like this one. Motorola just tweeted today that the Droid Bionic is coming, and it's slated for a summer release. Ooh. And we're already into summer, so they've got like 2 months left
Not
to make
much
good
time.
on that.
I feel like every single day
Droid
is just wait
Bionic.
a little longer.
And the Sony PS3 is expected to get a price drop in August. Is this part of the ongoing apology package? Perhaps. Hard to say. And now on to the emails.
So the first email comes from Brian in Chicago, and he says, "Hi, Team TNT. This morning when I opened Gmail, I was greeted with the option to try a new type of inbox. The options were classic, important first, unread first, starred first, and priority inbox. Now, I'm not sure if this is on by default or as one of the many labs options that I've opted into in the distant past, but I thought you might be interested in the tip, as it certainly saves me the time from searching is:"unread, which, by the way, I had no idea that you could do. So thank you very much, Brian in Chicago. Has anybody else come across that?
I haven't
seen it either.
And I definitely haven't seen this in Google Labs at all. But I don't know, maybe we've just missed it. That is very helpful, though, because people like to use Gmail the way that they like to use it. I'm a priority inbox fan myself, but I know people
they're just
love
right
their
now.
stars.
There's like tabs on the top, so if you wanted to do that, I mean, I've seen the options do that on the left before, but not on the top.
No, it's that I love it. I think it's great.
So thanks for the tip, Brian in Chicago.
Anything that keeps us more organized is a good thing. Next email from Cake Wolf. Hey, TNT crew, happy Liquid Friday. Thank you, Cake Wolf. We are enjoying it as well. Iyaz enjoyed his Liquid Friday a little bit too much. Just wanted to pass along a quick comment on the Tech News Today Reddit page. The story submitters have already read the articles being posted. We're aware of the details, but it's the insight and it's the background experience of the TNT staff and hosts that, at least for me, prompts the promotion of individual items. Technical details. Darren, for example, provides good, hacker commentary on security items. Iyaz is great on general, in-depth legal jargon surrounding patent and copyright infringement. Not that you're providing legal jargon, but you're helping
jargon is
to
what I do.
dissect the legal
That's
jargon.
fine. I'll take it.
Like he said, Sarah, Jason, and Tom, they have comprehension of the inner workings of the IT environment. Thank you, Cake Wolf. And anyway, this whole extra layer of the story is what we get that we don't just get from reading the articles. The best benefit that I found from the Reddit page is that I'm no longer scanning feeds or websites first to find interesting information, but I'm going to a single site of tech-related stories already curated by like-minded individuals, and it's allowed me to discover things and stories I might have otherwise missed or passed over in my daily web browsing. So anyway, thank you, Cake Wolf. It sounds like our subreddit page is really working for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, right now you guys can submit things over at technewstoday.reddit.com or bit.ly/TNT Reddit, and you guys have really stepped up. You've given us some great story ideas. Cert Doctor gave us one of the stories that actually aired today, so we really appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, I would thank people on my Reddit page, but my Wi-Fi has just gone out. Dag nabbit.
Try to get something. Stall.
But many of the top Reddit stories were also top stories on our show today. So
thank you, PC Guy 999, JX Mitchell, Derek C82, Cert Doctor, and Jeannie, and a whole bunch of you guys. Thanks so much for helping us.
Congratulations, you're all gonna get cars.
Woo!
Yes, Wil Harris will pay for them and send them over.
That's right.
Congratulations on your new Tesla Roadsters.
Also, we can't stop the show without reminding you folks, you can still buy bricks. Bricks.twit.tv is the website to go to if you're interested in becoming part of the new brick house, the TWiT studio. You buy a brick, you decide what you want to be put on the brick, and the brick goes up on the wall right in the front atrium. Your name and lights, or your website, or inspirational quote, or the name of Iyaz's dog, if you happen to know that information.
If you know my dog's names are Audrey and Tori, go put it on a brick.
Now you know.
There you go.
You have
Audrey's
no excuse
actually
not
named,
to do it.
She's named after the 3Com Audrey, the failed internet device from the...
Perfect. It's the perfect thing for a brick. So thanks to everybody who have already bought bricks. You know who you are, and we thank you so much. And if you haven't, you can still be part of the new studio. Thanks so much to everybody for supporting our efforts. The new studio is awesome. It's like a spaceship.
Yeah, actually, it's
really,
amazing.
really
Can't
cool.
wait to move in.
We're very excited, and thanks so much to Wil Harris for joining us all the way from across the pond. Tell folks what's going up. What's going on with you at Channel Flip?
Absolutely. So the thing that you can do that would be absolutely amazing would be to follow me on the Twitters, twitter.com/Wil Harris with 1L. And you can catch on Channel Flip, we've got a new series that you can see probably on YouTube, which is called youtube.com/David Mitchell Soapbox, which is some of our funnest,
Is that
exciting...
David Mitchell of Peep Show fame?
It is, indeed, of Peep Show. Etc. So go and check it out. Have a look, see what you think, and Twitters me up and let me know what you think.
That's at
awesome.
Wil Harris with 1L on the Twitters. He's a good one. I follow him. I recommend it. Thumbs up. Thanks so much for joining us, Will. As always, you can email us, tnt@twit.tv, and send us voicemails, 260-TNT-SHOWs, the way that you can call us. Tell you what you think. Tell us how you feel. Give us some suggestions. Yell if you have to.
Hopefully about technology.
Tom Merritt will be back on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.